Robert Perella, and we're outside the Marin Center in Marin, California, where we're showcasing and presenting David Icke. And this is produced by New Living Expo and Ken Kaufman and myself, Robert Perella, at United Light Entertainment. And we're looking forward to an in-depth look into what makes David Icke tick, what his work is about with his new book, Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, The Lion Sleeps No More. It is said that leadership is founded upon people making intelligent decisions that benefit the masses with often startling and incredible results. David is a way shower. He's part of the transition team. He's one who makes the difference. I think you're going to find this a very interesting YouTube presentation for your entertainment pleasure and for your wisdom. Thanks so much and enjoy the interview. David, when I read your book, Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, The Lion Sleeps No More, one of the things that stood out for me was the fact that the moon is a hollow construct that has been interacting with human DNA since perhaps before recorded history. I'm looking at that and saying to myself, when we have a revealment or an understanding like that, something like that only comes around every 300 years. It's a remarkable finding. Why do you feel that?
Well, to answer that question, you really have to look at my life in the last 20 years. You know, 20 years ago, I had a massive awakening. And I went to a psychic when I was still a television presenter, still a national spokesman of the British Green Party, into none of this stuff at all. And was told I was going to go out on a world stage and reveal great secrets. And what was said to me at that time was that they, whoever they are, would lead me to knowledge and put knowledge into my mind. And that's exactly what's happened for 20 years. From that moment, I went on a journey where some unseen force has been handing me pieces in a puzzle. And after 20 years, you get to know the sequence. And you get to know when something's going, look at this, look at this, look at this. What has happened again and again and again, Robert, is a subject has come into my life out of nowhere. And from that moment, things relating to that subject are coming at me from all angles. That's how I put the books together all along. And you get led to books, documents, personal experiences, continually repetitive confirmation of the same facts coming from different people in different ways. And I just put it together. When I started out on the whole moon thing, it was a classic sequence again, where I sat down at the computer to start writing a day of that book, and the energy in the room changed, and I thought, here we go, I know this one. And then what passed through my mind was very powerfully, the moon's not like you think it is, or words to that effect. The moon's not what people think it's to be, like a natural body. And I put a few words into NetFind, and up came a book called Who Built the Moon, which I'd never heard of, by two researchers who've written other books. And I read it very quickly when it arrived, and I realized, as you do so often when you're challenging convention, that we're born into the world, and we tend to accept what's already here as how things are. We don't question them. And this is very relevant, for instance, now, because we are at the moment the last generations who have the ability to see how the world was in terms of at least a semblance of freedom, and how it's becoming now with all the surveillance, all the tracking, all the fingerprinting and iris scanning. The children being born today, to them, this is how it is. They've got nothing to compare it with.
The socio-conditioning is so impactful that we think this is it.
Yeah, and so apply that to the moon. You're born into the world, the moon comes up. Night after night after night, year after year after year.
You don't question it.
Don't question it. And when I started, because of this process that began, in the way I've explained, when I started looking at the moon, I was thinking, I never knew that. I never knew that. And so often when you see what is accepted to be scientific fact, like, oh, this is how the moon was formed, mate. When you go through the process of following that back, it's a theory. In truth, science has no idea where the moon came from. And as one scientist said quite rightly, the only thing you can say for sure about the moon is it must be observational error. It shouldn't be there. It's far too big. And as this book, Who Built the Moon, points out, the geometry and the mathematics between the moon, the earth, and the sun are absolutely incredible. So much so that the moon is about the same size as the sun when viewed from the earth, which is where we get the eclipses from. And then you start to realize the extent to which, never mind this moon matrix that I'm talking about as an add-on to this, even the moon being there, the size that it is, where it is, it's a fundamental impact on human life. The angle of the earth, the speed of spin, so it's affecting our relationship to time. It has a fundamental impact on the endocrine system, which connects into the chakra system, which connects into the hormonal system. It has an impact, a serious impact on the pineal gland, part of the third eye, the sixth sight, the getting out there beyond five sense reality. And of course it has a fundamental effect on the tidal systems of the earth, and we're 60–70% water. It must have some effect even on that level. And when I started going down this road and seeing all these anomalies, and then you start to see that when the moon has been impacted with a major hit, and they've got seismometers up there to sort of recording all this and seeing what happens. And you know, they say that the moon rings like a bell or rings like a gong. One scientist talked to the authors of this book saying that it kind of shook and in a way that was like it was hollow and had hydraulic struts inside it, you know. And then you've got this very, very large titanium content of the moon, which is very different to the Earth. And what the official story of science is that the moon came out of the Earth, that a Mars-type planet hit the moon, and hit the Earth rather, and a great chunk came off and became the moon. And they call that the first one anyway, the Big Whack theory, or this impact. But when the physics of that didn't work out, they came up with a double Big Whack theory, which is that this Mars-type planet hit the Earth, went away, came back, and gave it another smack. You know, it's like they haven't got a clue, and it's very clear when you put all this stuff together that for me the moon is not real. It could be a hollowed out planetoid, or it could be a from scratch construct, because this is the big thing that we as humans have to get across and get over if we're going to understand the nature of what's going on in the world. And that is the cutting edge of human technological, whatever you want to call it, potential. Funnily enough, sits back in amazement, deep breath, shock to the core, is actually not the cutting edge of what's actually possible. And if you want to suppress someone's sense of possibility, then suppress the information that gives them the understanding that far more is possible than appears to be so. Example, if you keep from people the law of gravity, the idea the Earth is not flat is ludicrous, because people at the bottom of a sphere without gravity would fall off. And you go, it's impossible, it's got to be flat, mate. And then you say, well, hold on, here's the law of gravity. Ah, I can see now. So what seems to be impossible, that's ridiculous, bizarre, to, I can see it now, is simply the scale of information that we have access to. I was told right at the start, when I was being told I was going to go out and do what I'm doing, that there was use the word in the widest context, there was a spiritual revolution coming, because there was a vibrational change coming that was going to wake humanity up from its hypnotic state. I say that's where the hypnotic state comes from, that thing we see in the sky at night. And that this vibrational change, what I dubbed in my first book, the truth vibrations, that's what the name of my first book was after I started to get this in 1991. And the truth vibrations is the name I gave to this vibrational change, because what I was told was that it was going to have two major effects. First of all, people were going to wake up from the coma. The more awake first, and then more and more who were not anything like awake to start with. And we're seeing that, Robert, aren't we? My goodness me, I'm seeing it all over the world. But also, it was going to bring to the surface all that had been hidden from humanity.
Right.
20 years ago, not a sign of it. Look at it now.
Yes.
Look what we know now we didn't know last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's coming up. And this truth vibrations is, for me, this. Another thing that I've kind of put together, it's a long story, most of them are, because they're pieces that you put together and come from different sources, but keep pointing you in the same direction. I'm saying that out of the black holes, and they've now discovered there's a massive one at the center of this galaxy, and they perceive that there's one at the center of every galaxy. I think the black holes all over the place. As this, out of the black holes is coming the base vibration of this reality, the base vibration of the cosmic internet. But this vibration changes. And as the vibration, the base vibration resonates, it's eliciting information from the suns, and probably other sources too, from the suns on that frequency, in that frequency range. And so that's the information, the photon energy, the photon information that is passing through the meridian lines of the acupuncture system. Because what are they doing? The acupuncture lines, the chi, what is it? It's information. And so we're constantly decoding information as this energy goes through the genetic structure. And of course, the brain's massively involved in the decoding.
And that's increasing.
Yeah, and also the Earth, with the meridian lines of the Earth, the ley lines and the vortex points, or the ancients used to put their kind of great temples on and everything, and the Freemasons put things on, temples on and stuff like that to harness that energy. That's photon energy as well. The planet 2 is decoding information. And so because of the moon matrix, the hack, like the Chinese firewalling off the World Wide Web, we have been receiving a fraction of that information. But this resonance, this base resonance, doesn't stay constant, as I've said. It goes through a cycle. It doesn't go round, it just vibrates differently to a different beat as it goes through its cycle, and then basically returns to something like the start, and it all starts again. It's what I call the time loop. As that base frequency changes, so the information coming from into what you might call the cosmic internet, that changes. And this is what the cycular nature of time is about. Right. Time is also an illusion. It's a decoded illusion based on information. But you've got the Mayans, they talk about the cyclic nature of time. You've got the Yugas in Asia, the cyclic nature of time. It's a constant theme. And what do they talk about? They talk about going through a golden age and then a more suppressed epoch where things are like a dark age, like suppressed and limitation. And what I've begun to understand, mate, is that very clearly we are changing epochs. And what you're talking about with these astrological and astronomical sequences, they're all a holographic expression, a played out in this reality expression of information changing within the base construct, because at the moment we're at this cusp of change. I mean, what did people talk about, even in the New Age years ago, the dawning of the age of Aquarius? Well, these are all, and the Mayans talk about 2012 and all this stuff. Well, maybe they do. I mean, some people question all that in detail, but the theme, absolutely, I agree with. that there is an epoch change because there is an information change. Now, in the situation we're in, we're in the cusp, so both information sources are actually coexisting. And this is where we've got this very clearly emerging, forking the road of those people that are still decoding the information from the old epoch, and look at people like you and me and others, and
we'll look crazy to them.
What are you doing? You're crazy.
We'll look crazy to them,
and
yes.
Then, but more and more, and my God, have I seen it over 20 years. More and more, all over the world. I've been in 51 countries now, and this is a global phenomenon where people are starting to open their minds, because
to get it.
The thing is that the information of the old epoch of suppression and limitation, on which this whole control system and suppression is based, because when that's gone, that's got to go, because it's an expression of it. So the control system is doomed. It's trying to hang on for dear life by throwing the kitchen sink at us at the moment, but it's doomed ultimately. But if you are in a mental and emotional state, therefore what? Vibrational state, resonance state, in which you are only tuning into that, then you will stay welded in your sense of perception and possibility to the old epoch, very much more low-grade information, because it was the epoch of suppression and ignorance. So it was an experience for consciousness. But now we're moving into this era, and when you open your mind, open your body mind to consciousness, the infinite level of us, then you start to resonate quicker. And what happens? You start to resonate with information,
the new
that's
information
quicker. Which is this new information that's coming in, what I call the truth vibrations. And that's why people are awakening, and they're saying, why couldn't I see it before? Because you weren't connected to what you're connected to now.
The cosmic intelligence is more available to them.
Exactly.
Because they're open. While the other ones stand and they still sit in the old world.
Exactly.
So there's a separation in definition. So some of us will really get it and move forward and actually be able to even access it. Going back to what we were saying about the Avatar movie, this is a very similar thing. The idea that if you sat still, if you focused on the energies that are there, then you'll get that information. You'll see the new information that's coming in, that's exposing the misinformation and the disinformation about what we've come to believe so far. And the other people will still be stuck in the other world, so we will look crazy to them, because we've sort of moved up into this new expression, accessing the new information.
But for the people still welded to the old information construct, they are just an opening of the mind away to moving into the new era. And when I look at the control system now, in all its forms, all the food additives of chemicals in drink and fluoride in the water and electromagnetic pollution, more and more surveillance, more and more stress, fear of the economy, and all these things to destabilize us mentally, emotionally, chemically, electromagnetically, therefore put it all together vibrationally. It seems, if you don't put this other stuff together, that what's happening is that this control system is reaching its ultimate goal of total global power. I see it another way. If I knew that this vibrational change, transformation was coming 20 years ago, how long has the control system bloody known it's coming? And it's no coincidence that it's in this time, this point, where this truth vibration transformation is really starting to impact upon more and more human perception, that we're being hit by everything this system can throw at us, because the body computer is a receiver transmitter. That's why the body is basically a crystalline entity, but it's also an electrochemical organism on one level. And all this stuff we're consuming, all this electromagnetic pollution, all this stuff in water and drink and whatever, and food, it's destabilizing us electrochemically. And when you have a distortion like that, you cannot decode reality and this new awareness on the scale that you would if the blueprint was as it should be. And of course, what they're doing now is targeting children overwhelmingly. They're targeting them with all the stuff in food and drink and sweets and candy and all the rest of it you call them in America. And we have this thing called attention deficit disorder, which is the inability to concentrate, so they say, and hyperactivity and all the rest of it, right? And they're giving them Ritalin, which is helping to justify the drugging of children and young people. But the symptoms of attention deficit disorder, which they've just created as a mental problem, are exactly the same symptoms that you get from the additives in food and drink that we're giving children. Exactly the same.
So we're creating the problem in the first place.
But they're targeting the children on multi levels, because they are the next generation that are going to take this truth vibration change on.
Right.
So they're trying to stop us becoming what this vibrational information change could make us become. But it's like, it's like trying to stop a tornado with a, with a little sticker or something. It's a fly on an elephant's back. What we are experiencing, and what we will experience for a few years yet, are many challenges as the cornered rat of the control system thrashes out everything it can, tries to push through as quickly as it can, everything possible to keep the lid on this awakening. But eventually, the point comes where the truth vibrations, the new information construct, becomes the dominant one.
Right.
At which point, down will come the house of cards.
And we'll be able to access that. Yeah. The new and the old world are actually colliding in a way we've never dreamed possible.
And we will be able to access the ability to perceive and create in full awareness.
Right.
On a level that we would even think possible, but what the humanity once did before the fall, and is going to again, because we are not experiencing humanity in its full glory, its full potential, its full infinite possibility. We have experienced in our lifetime, and long back in what we call history, a suppressed, a controlled, and an ignorant humanity, and therefore its sense of possibility and what it can create has expressed that all.